problem with these fantasy maps. See if you can spot it. I'm not calling out any map in particular, more a general trend. It's not unrealistic mountain ranges or rivers splitting when they shouldn't. That's geography, the physical features of the world. And that's what people normally criticise in fantasy maps, but I want to look at the maps themselves, the cartography. Why do all these maps look the same? Most of them are presented as if they're diegetic. The style suggests they were made inside the world they describe. But they're geographically accurate in a way that just doesn't match the technology available. These are 1800s style maps, in worlds that tend to aim for a roughly medieval vibe. And for some reason, 96% of published fantasy maps have north at the top. But cartography in the real world is so varied. Maps can be wildly different across time and space. Sometimes they're so distorted you'd never guess where they're of, or so abstract you might not even tell they're maps. So let's explore the world of cartography. We'll start with maps made for navigation. This map from the Marshall Islands shows the patterns of waves. Islands cause distinct disturbances in the ocean swells, so a skilled sailor can feel the direction of a current and know where they are on the map. And these maps, made by the Inuit of eastern Greenland, are wood carved to represent coastlines and islands. The Mercator projection was great for sailing because straight lines on the map matched straight lines in real life. But when it was first invented in the 1500s, it wasn't actually that useful. You needed to know your longitude, and there was no way to figure that out yet. It was only in the 1700s, when the marine chronometer was invented, that the Mercator became essentially the default map. Cartography and navigation technology develop hand in hand. North is at the top because sailors used the North Star to navigate, and then north-pointing compasses when those became widely available. As a Londoner, I'm obligated to mention the tube map, where geography is distorted into a simple schematic. But I should also mention its ancient equivalent, the Peutinger map. Designed to display the Roman road network, its priority is representing settlements and the distance between them. Geographical accuracy isn't as important as knowing what road to take. And maybe even more important, making the road system look big and impressive. 'Cause maps can also be used to tell a story about the world. The Hereford Mappa Mundi was made for display in a cathedral, so its priority is religious narrative. It's got landmarks like the Tower of Babel, Noah's Ark, and the Wife of Lot. Its shape, with Asia at the top and Europe and Africa in the bottom quarters, is actually pretty common in a simpler form, known as a T and O map. It's a way to learn about the continents. Another common form is the V in square. Or you could get a cloverleaf map, with Jerusalem in the middle. The Tabula Rogeriana was commissioned by a Christian, King Roger II of Sicily, but it's got Mecca at the centre. Arabic art and science was highly respected at the time, and Roger wanted to come across as educated and worldly. So he employed the Arab cartographer al-Idrisi, who combined European and Arabic traditions to make this map. More recently, there's the Gaulle-Peters map, which is usually presented as an alternative to the Mercator projection. While Mercator distorts the areas of continents, making Africa look disproportionately small while Europe gets to be big and detailed, the Gaulle-Peters map accurately portrays relative area at the expense of shape. It's popular in schools, both to counteract the distortions of the Mercator projection and to get young students thinking about how map choices can be political. Speaking of politics, maps can also make territorial claims. Early Babylonian and Chinese maps are pretty accurate to the geography, on a small scale at least, because they use surveying tools to mark property boundaries. And during the European exploration of the Americas, map makers continually updated their work with new discoveries, sometimes getting over-eager and making wild guesses, but accuracy was a way of proving you'd been there. Later, accuracy proved how rational you could be. The Cassini map of France was one of the first to use triangulation, commissioned as part of Louis XIV's scientific agenda. And if you want to defend your boundaries, you've got to know exactly where they are. Which can be difficult when the boundaries are disputed. Google Maps deals with competing claims by showing slightly different borders depending on who's looking. You can actually test this out right now with a VPN. Like this video's sponsor. Okay, I'm just kidding, but that would make for a great transition. Okay, I think I've made my point. Cartography has a lot of variety. So why are fantasy maps so samey? Well, I think we're used to seeing maps as a neutral, objective representation of geography, a completely transparent window into a world. So fantasy maps tend to be judged on if their geography is realistic, rather than if the map itself is doing something interesting. And it's easier for both the maker and the audience to understand the map if it works the way they expect maps to work. But I think it would be fun to have some fun with it. You could play with the orientation of a map. Lots of ancient maps had the sunrise at the top, or the Garden of Eden. Ancient Egyptians thought of south as the top, because the Nile flows down. The Dune map of Arrakis is presented looking down towards the pole. And in Terry Pratchett's Discworld, there'd be no point having a north, because the world's a flat circle. The directions are hubwards, rimwards, turnwise and widdershins. You can incorporate cultural beliefs. This map from Always Coming Home by Ursula K. Le Guin is all about springs and how they connect to a main river, because springs are sacred places. The rivers in this map by Petrus illustrate a philosophical concept. The three rivers symbolise the three sources of life, a classification system like the four humours. In this map by Telamonian Ajax, the world is divided up into simple geometric regions, designed to teach people their place in the world. And Xerxes maps split the world into even halves of land and sea, because it needs to be balanced. It can be really cool seeing the same world from different perspectives. This map from Toasty comes in both stylized and geographical variants, so you can see which bits become distorted and which bits were just totally unknown to the map's makers. I really love these two maps by Kakakasa. They're from two different times and cultures, and they're both really full of narrative. I don't really have anything against the stereotypical fantasy map. I just wish there was more variety. And I've seen a lot of people think they have to start their world building by getting the perfect map. There's a critic in their head telling them they have to get the mountains and rivers right, or everyone's going to look at them and laugh. But that pressure doesn't have to exist. You can do exactly as much geography as you think is fun and interesting. A map is not the territory, it's a representation. It gets filtered through the perspective and purpose and priorities of whoever made it, and there are so many possibilities there.